I think my advice to people is not get distracted with a lot of the rhetoric that's going on right now. People worrying about what everybody else is doing. Focus on you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to what I'm going to say arguably could be the most fun and energy-packed session on What's Next to date. I've got, I'm going to say good friend because I've spent some time with him both in person now as a franchisee of his franchisor network. And I'm just loving the energy that he brings to business and as much to life. Jeff Dudan is going to join us today as a high-level athlete, very successful entrepreneur. He's done everything from write a book. We're going to talk about all this, played collegiate football, built Advanaclean to over 240 locations in 37 states. As a great father, husband, we're going to talk about all that stuff on the show. But, without any further ado, a couple of the highlights featured on Undercover Boss. Definitely going to talk about that. And I noticed in the bio also was a dog at Chuck E. Cheese. So we've got a lot of range to cover today. Jeff, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Brian. I'm honored that you would consider me to be a friend of yours. I enjoy every time that we get together, and I'm very excited to be on here with you today. And look, that Chuck E. Cheese thing, if one of the things I say in my book is all work is honorable, but some jobs are better than others.
Oh, I mean, so how did that come about? I mean, I think I'd be remiss if I wasn't asking, because people are like, how does a guy who's in the shoes you are now start at Chuck E. Cheese? Well, that may not have been the start.
I was too tall for the mouse costume. It's essentially. So, the dog costume fit me well. But look, I was a scrappy young guy. When you look back on it, and you come to realize that early entrepreneurial experiences are a foreshadow to future entrepreneurial success. And that most entrepreneurs, or many entrepreneurs, are screwed into existence, meaning like people find ways to make money because they really, really need money. They don't have resources. I didn't have a lot of resources growing up due to my family situation and things that happened there. So if I wanted anything other than, my 3 different color pair of Toughskins, I had to go out and get it myself. I worked the trades growing up. I worked as a stock guy at Sears. I worked Chuck E. Cheese. I worked construction. I worked moving and storage. I mean, any job that would have me was jobs that I would take. And then I was also an athlete. We were a very competitive 6A large school that I went to, Schaumburg High School. We were 22-3 my senior year in basketball, and then we were a quarterfinalist in the state in football. So really just, a group of us guys, it was kind of a work hard, play hard. I think if anything fell off the table for me, it was probably the grades. But outside of that, I was a voracious reader. I had Inc. magazine subscription probably from the time I was 15 years old. I read every book that I could get my hands on. And when I took my standardized testing, I scored really high on it, and coupled that with a very low grade point average caused 2 counselors to bring me into the office in high school and say, Jeff, what is going on here with this test score and what's going on with your grades? You're clearly not applying yourself. I said, no, I'm applying myself, just not to school.
Well, you're lucky you didn't get nabbed for cheating, or maybe that was their underlying pressure point of.
You know what's interesting? I don't cheat. I don't steal. I've had like 1 speeding ticket in my life, and I got out of it. I mean, I've never had a parking ticket. Like for being kind of a maverick, I'm kind of a rule follower too. Like if I understand what the rules are, and I tell my kids this: if you know what the right thing to do is, do that. And so I'm never one that's like cut corners and cheated on things, even things like parking in the wrong spot or stuff like that. I just feel like, okay, if everybody's agreed to these rules, then they're fine. But that being said, what being athletes teaches us is to push the limits, and, to forget about, to play the next play, and to give all your credit to your players, and to, make sure that you find a way through it to win, and do everything that you can to win inside of the rules of it. So business was a very good playground for me to be able to, have freedom within a framework, to be able to build teams and to coach and to strategize, and then to go out and really test yourself and stress yourself. And we learned all of that, you, me, and everybody else probably listening to this podcast at a very young age from coaches and from the experiences that we had as we traversed up the athletic ladder.
It's great you say that. And one of the things on our show, I try to take a lot of notes, which I do, to kind of highlight these value bombs, if you will. I love how you really highlighted not just being a dog at Chuck E. Cheese, but these other hardworking, disciplined making jobs as a youngster. I think as athletes, we oftentimes discard those things as well. We had to do that because we were playing sport. We didn't have these glamorous internships or this easy path to X. But in reality, I remember working as a stock point at a grocery store on a longshore fishing boat, those types of things. It's a common thread of the guys I've had on the show and the gals I've had on the show is this like trials and tribulations that led to just made me a better athlete. And oh, by the way, is kind of my secret sauce when I became a business owner, which if you're not there yet, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not there yet, don't discount the fact that you're only an athlete. Like Jeff said, kind of look back and I think you're going to see a lot of these precursors to some pretty great stuff to come. By the way, this book is awesome. This is not a book promo. You're not on a book tour. Discernment, Jeff wrote this book. You gave me this book the very first time we met. I was just actually at Homefront Brands kicking the tires on what you were doing. You gave me this book, signed it, Bryan, Speak a Bold Future, which was awesome. I've probably read it 3 or 4 times. And one of the things you say in there is decision-making is a full contact sport. I think on the surface, you go, okay, I get that. But there's some depth to that you share. Maybe take us into that. Because I think that's a good, you lean into this old experience and kind of take us into that. What does that mean to you?
Yeah. And I really appreciate you reading the book and giving me that feedback. There's literally dozens of copies of Discernment in print now. But
10 of them might have been purchased by me because I passed them out like they're Halloween candy. I mean,
well, you didn't know that you had 10% of the inventory. So look, what is wisdom? Wisdom is models of thought that we have accumulated over a lifetime applied to present day situations, giving us better decision making because the quality of our decisions improves or impacts the velocity of our business and the quality of our life. And every decision nothing is 100%. Anything can go. Look at Enron. Look at Arthur Andersen. Anything can go to zero. And nothing is 100%. Nothing's too big to fail. So the decisions that you make, it's like just a gas gauge. If you make a great decision, it's going to increase your probability of the outcome that you're looking for from 69 to 71%. But it's not an absolute, right? So you have to constantly, and I love the people that talk to kids and they say, you're going to make 99 decisions every single day. And you're going to wake up and the first one is, do I make my bed or not? And then, do I smile at somebody first? Do I go out of my way to say a kind word to somebody? What do I start the day with gratitude or do I start the day with TikTok? Like you're making all of these micro decisions throughout the course of the day that create the macro outcomes that you're looking for. And, our will is an inexhaustible resource. So if we make bad decisions and we go down an alley that we have to back up from, and we do that 3 or 4 different times, we get exhausted and then you're more likely to quit depending on your level of resilience and the amount of battery that you have. So really learning from an intentional way over your lifetime, what goes into decisions for you. And it's going to be different for everybody because you have all these underlying filters. So what are your values? And I say, and I have my family values in the book and then our business values in the book. And look, your values break the ties. When you're in business or you're in a relationship, what I've come to learn lately is more than one thing can be true at the same time. Okay. And what do I mean by that? Let's just say you've got a job and it's gone wrong. And there's a subcontractor and you and a customer and all of these people involved in it. Maybe you or your people are 30% responsible for it. So you're 70% not responsible, but yet the situation has to be resolved. So if you look back to your values and your community-based business, accountability is high on it. You're a servant leader. So you're going to lead from a perspective of grace and a perspective of accountability. You look back at your values, you're probably going to say, you know what, we're going to worry about the dollars later, but like this project has to go on and I'm going to make it right today. A perfect example, we have one of our great top rail fence owners, Bob Stewart. And our president was doing a ride along, and he went to like 6 different sales appointments and jobs. And he goes out to a job, and the customer says, the fence that you've installed half of this morning is in the wrong place. You've got half the posts in, and it needs to be 1 foot over. Now, Bob knew that that was what they agreed to. They had it marked where it was supposed to go, but what he realized, and either he didn't want it there or it was over, whatever it was, that he needed it moved over. So Bob said, all right, you go to the other side of the fence. I'm going to stand here. They put their foots down. They ran a string. But is that where you want it? Yes, it is. And he just said, move the posts. Okay, well, that probably cost him 2 hours to do it. But think about that. Like, what is the impact on his reputation in that market? And our reputation is simply the relationship that we have with people that we have not yet met. So if you're building a community business, which is one of our values, then your reputation over time is going to matter. When you start a business in the first year, you're trying to get leads from digital marketing. You're introducing yourself to the network. But 3 to 5 years from now, half of your business or more should be referral business from people that you've treated well. So you're investing in that future outcome in that way. So your values kind of break the ties and will tell you what to do in a difficult situation when you're not fully at fault sometimes. So your values break the ties. So we talk about that in the book. We talk about other decision filters and, like having a balance sheet, like think about your time. We talk about in sports getting dirty eyes. What is it to get dirty eyes if you're a defensive back or a linebacker in football? Well, if your eyes are in the right place, it'll put your feet in the right place. You're reading the right keys. You'll be on the right place. You'll be on time. You'll have your angles. You'll have your leverage. You'll have your alignment, responsibility, and technique. And you will make the play 19 out of 20 times because your eyes are in the right place. But if you sneak a peek in the backfield when you're playing man-to-man, you're going to be out of position. You're going to lose the receiver. So what does that mean? And what does that translate into business? And I translate that into business by saying, okay, when are you most productive? What's your somatic rhythm? I'm a morning person. 4:45, eyes are open, feet are hitting the floor. It's my most productive time. Your flow state, brain rhythms are closest to your sleep rhythms. So if I wake up and I spend 20 minutes on Instagram seeing what happened last night and who liked my what, this or that or the other thing, I've just taken my brain waves away from a place that's going to take me away from flow, where what I should be doing is writing important letters, writing important strategy, consuming like the things that really that require great focus and great attention. Sometimes just one of the greatest things that Vern Harnish recommends to business owners is that you spend 2 hours a week to 4 hours a week without distractions, just letting the universe speak to you. Because as business owners, we're in the swirl, right? Oh, invoices, this, that, customers, the other thing. But the music is made between the notes. So sometimes as athletes, you need to find that quiet place to let the universe speak to you and let it organize itself. And the path forward will become clear to you. So all of these things in discernment are based in things that I learned as an athlete. And I had my first most impactful coaches were a guy named Ron Krieger and Tom Mueller, who were my high school basketball coaches. And these guys were before their time. And by the way, this was before the shot clock. So there was no shot clock. So we had a bunch of 6'2" to 6'4" suburban guys, and we were all interchangeable. And we ran straight man-to-man, and we took charges, and we practiced defense 75% of the practice and free throws the other 20%, and then we conditioned the other 5%. If you want to learn how to shoot, you do that on your own. So it's crazy. But we knew that if other people couldn't score, then we would always have an opportunity to win. So our scores we suppressed the score. We had incredible man-to-man defense. And we did things like goal cards, and I still use these today. So on the front of it is, was what you want to accomplish over the next term. I want to be a better rebounder. I want to box out better. I want to work on my left hand. And then it was more specific things like I want to get 10 rebounds tonight. I want to take 2 charges. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you'd put these goal cards in your locker and you'd put them everywhere. And it's really just speaking a future into existence that you want for yourself and setting some concrete goals that have KPIs with them and then focusing on it. And then, we would go and he would take us in a room and we'd lay on the floor of a classroom and he'd turn the lights off and he would just talk through It's the fourth quarter of the quarterfinal game, and we're up by 2 points, and they're taking the ball out under the basket, and we know that we're going to have our foot on the line, and we're going to be inside. And he would just talk through these scenarios. So the power of visualization, which there's a study where they took a group of people that practiced free throws just virtually, and a group that actually practiced, and the virtual group improved more than the control group. So the power of you can train your mind and talk your mind into doing things that you would never otherwise do. So all of these things are kind of in the athlete realm that translate over to business. And I think, to put a bow on it, and I got away from discernment a little bit there, but to put a bow on it, people think that when they get into the business environment, because of the constraints of business, that they can't act like a coach or act like an athlete. But I don't think that's true. I think we teach people how to treat us, and we attract what we put out. And if you want athletes in your business, then, really build a team. Don't compromise what you learned on the athletic field when you get into the business field.
Well, that's such a great jump off point, because I do believe society, time, we can point the finger wherever we want, that we've desensitized the idea that there is a scoreboard. You talk about that in the book as well. We do keep score. And as athletes, that's how we know whether we're winning or losing to get better or not. It isn't about beating an opponent necessarily. It's where we are in the journey. And I've always had this take on the businesses I've built that I am unapologetic about hiring athletes. And athletes today could be an esport athlete. You could have been in the band. You know this from football. Sometimes the band members spend more hours at times than some of the football players. I'm looking for people who have just committed to what they're doing and honing their craft. And we're unapologetic about it for that reason. And it's a blend of what you said, right? That I think when those values of hard work, doing what's right every single time, even when people aren't looking, you start to look at the bigger scope and you just start winning. So I think this idea that you don't have to hide from being an athlete. In fact, amplify it, because you do teach people how to treat you and you attract those that you're putting out there. I think that's spot on. And as you've sort of grown, so from Advanaclean, you grew that up, sold that company, probably easily could have, I'm checked out. I'm going on a yacht. I'm going to surf or golf or whatever happens after that. You decide to start over, rebuild maybe a bigger, more rounded brand. How have you used that mentality of going to get those that sort of clamor for winning, chasing thoroughbreds, if you will?
We're kind of unapologetic about our values. And the thing about sports is everything's not perfect. We are in a highly competitive space. And, we built, we had 180 new business owners under 15 months old. And I have go from a staff of 9 to a staff of 65 in a 24-month period. There are going to be bumps in the road, right? Because look, especially because you're not going to get all the hires right. You've got to, some people need to be cut, honestly. And some people need to be promoted, and some people need to be given different tools and different training techniques to be successful in their roles. So it's really just like building any other team. And then you have an extended team of franchise owners out there, which we're over 220 franchise owners now, inside of a 2-year period, operating 700 territories. It's a super fast growth, and they've all got their teams that they're trying to build inside of that. So it's, it is an imperfect science. However, it is worth doing, and it's exciting to do. And you just, when you have a team, when you have a franchise team that's out there winning and winning the game, sometimes you don't know if you're on the 5-yard line going in or if you're on your own 5-yard line, right? It depends. It depends on how it feels. But no, what we've done with Homefront Brands is we needed to create, and you mentioned I could have walked away at 50. I sold my business at 50. And I wanted to make sure that I had enough time left on the clock to be able to do something meaningful once we decided what that was. And I went around and did investing and advising in different types of industry, some non-franchise, but a lot of franchise businesses. And I just got back to this property services business. because I kept bringing, I kept saying, well, in the property service business, we have these fundamentals. And what are the fundamentals? Well, the durable nature of it. There's going to be 100 to 150 million more people in this country by 2050. There's a housing shortage right now of the types of homes people want to live in. There's increased migration. So work when you leave. Work needs to get done when you buy a new home. There's going to be all this new building, which is going to be new schools, new retail, new everything, institutions, all of these things that are going to need to serve the population. So we're in a business that's not like a Blockbuster Video where there's obsolescence in it. We're in a business that if people want to really build a team, show up in their community, be the face of solutions, be the face of integrity in their marketplace, like they will eat forever. And the supply demand curve's in our favor because less young people are doing these types of things. So for those of us who can find a way to resource these projects and opportunities, then, it's really in our favor. So when I went back to do Homefront Brands, I said, before we ever started, we thought long and hard about it and said, okay, I don't want to nibble into it. So, and then start with, and have to go through all these iterations. So we started with acquiring 4 brands and standing one brand up, total of 5. And because of that, we were able to attract the type of executives, the type of vendors, the type of affiliate partners, and the type of franchise partners to the system that said, okay, I see that this is a stand-up and I see what's going on here, but I believe that I can play the game inside of this platform with these assets that have been put together inside of it, to have the outcome that's going to be worth me putting my time, energy, and money into it. And because of that, we've attracted a very sophisticated group of franchise owners that are, generally, we've never seen a group like this, well capitalized, collaborative, smart, successful. Some of these people have $50 million businesses and they're looking to just diversify into other businesses here. And franchising has really become a mechanism, and even for private equity buying franchisees. That is a very active space right now. So if people can come into a conference in 2 days, this won't play in the next 2 days, will it?
No.
Okay. Well,
we'll
so
see.
my theme is franchise monopoly, right? And everything is like, here's the game board. I'm gonna talk to each of the brands, because if you're in one brand, you don't have visibility into the other ones. Mm-hmm. I'm introducing our 2 new concepts, one that's launching now, one that's launching in the second quarter next year, and all of the things that all of the moves that we've made and all of the moves that we're making, so that our owners can play this game and have an outcome, have an exit that's going to be worth their time and money. So connecting the dots between the huge investment that we're making in 25 in learning management, because when you go to sell your business, people want to know, like, where are the resources for me to grow this business to the next level? Well, an incredible, robust learning management platform is an asset to your business because people are going to want to know it's there. So it's very exciting, but we had to go at a certain scale to attract a certain type of owner, and also to attract and also to make the kind of investments that I wanted to make. I wanted to spend millions of dollars standing up a tech platform. I wanted to make these investments so that, we could do something. Time is worth more than money. There's nothing that's equivalent to value in time.
Agreed.
And, being 53 when we started this thing, I wanted to make sure, like, we were going to be able to build a dream that's big enough for so many people's dreams to fit inside of it. And in a time that was going to be attractive to people. And, now we're sitting here in November. And, the general thinking is that we're going to have tailwinds. We're going to have tailwinds in interest rates. We're going to have tailwinds in borrowing. We're going to have tailwinds in inflation in terms of, a business-friendly environment. So we're going to conference saying, guys, heads down, you need to build like 3 to 5 years. Like what can you build in 3 to 5 years? Gun to your head. If you had to do twice as much in half the time, how would you play that game of Monopoly?
Well, I love that too, because you and I both are fans of Dan Sullivan, 10X thinking here.
Yeah.
It's not a pipe dream. And so, folks, if you're not fired up after hearing this, and in full disclosure, After I heard it and got to see it in person, which is when Jeff gave me the book, my brother and I signed up to be, at the time, we might have to fact check this, but will ultimately be one of the largest franchise owners on the West Coast.
Yes.
And we believe in where this is going. And I'm saying that in full disclosure because it isn't a sales pitch for Homefront Brands. It's a belief in where we're going. And I didn't need to do it either, nor did my brother. But when we looked at this opportunity of being inside of Homefront with temporary wall systems, it was as much about what Jeff is talking about. The value system is there. We're in a state that's tough to do business just based on regulations. And I can tell you, I don't talk to Jeff about these issues. I talk to guys who are down the line, and yet they lean in, go above and beyond, bring in outside resources. This is all part of the value system that was learned a long time ago. And if you can close your eyes and imagine and listen to Jeff and take out the word Homefront Brands and insert football team here at the NFL level, he's acting like an owner, empowering his general managers, empowering the staff to make the best decisions so that in a period of time, they're going to win a Super Bowl, right? I mean, I'm just dialing it back to full athletics. And you're right. It appeals to a guy who may be just getting started with a 401k and guys way above my pay grade that are saying, I want to do this at scale. And I think that's exciting. One of the things I wrote down as you were acquiring brands and what you've learned in your next is to move at pace and speed. And that's why you didn't start from the ground up with 4 of the 5 brands. You're like, let's go get it. Which ones are working? How do we kind of amplify this? What were you looking for? If I'm thinking about you as kind of this owner, GM, orchestrator, using the athletic side, when you looked out at, I'm sure you had thousands of choices of brands to start to look at and accumulate. How do you narrow it down to 4 that you'd say, yep, it still fits our values, fast-paced, right people, right product, right fit? What was the mix there that kind of helped you whittle that down?
Well, it's about a 13-item checklist, and you usually go down 2 or 3 items, and you can disqualify a brand. We get 2 or 3 brands a week that reach out. Wow. And are interested in doing it. Lots of deals that I'm saying no to everything now when it comes to that, and also other opportunities that come in. I just said no to a deal out in your neck of the woods in LA that would have been a dream to get involved with, but I just can't. I'm not going to spare the time and focus on anything else other than Homefront Brands, because this is building this. It will be, I'd just rather go get another brand for Homefront Brands and get it into there and build with the people that are here now and continue to build. But look, so the brands had to have a certain revenue potential, and, it needed to be demonstrated that the brands could scale. I mean, there's great little franchises out there where you buy you get in the back of your car with a little kit and you go around to car dealerships and you fix upholstery and you buy yourself that job, and it's a super high margin, but the revenues are not going to get into the millions of dollars there. And, for people to get the outcome, there is no outcome without income. So each of the brands we had to believe that based on the business such as it was, and based on our perception or our research into the marketplace, that we could acquire customers in most, if not all markets, that we could be competitive, that we understood who the customer was, and that franchise owners, the business model was simple enough that it wasn't a jet airplane. You can't, if you put a jet airplane out there, then 99% of people are going to crash it into the mountain. Mm-hmm. So the businesses have to have opportunities from either centralization or the sales model or, the fragmentation of the customer base or the fragmentation of the competition, where people could enter a market successfully without major barriers to entry. Like it's never easy, but it had to be doable for the overwhelming majority of people to be able to execute. So we call that, they had to be businesses that are good for people. They had to have certain revenue potential. We like a in our B2C businesses, we do like a residential and commercial or industrial mix. So they all have that. There's certain things we look for in supply chain opportunity or supply chain maximization, the ability to get competitive advantage inside of that. So you go down this list. We did look for a certain owner profile, being in business over 5 years, to make sure that they've made enough mistakes that we weren't going to have to repeat all of that. There's people that stand up a business and in 6 months they try to franchise it, and the problem is that they haven't made all the mistakes yet. So now you're making mistakes at the expense of the franchise owners. And, that's not good. That's not what the model is meant to be. There's over 880,000 franchise establishments in the United States. 1 out of every 8 people employed almost 9 million people work by or for a franchise system. Franchising is a big part of small business. Small business is 46 to 60% of GDP and employs most of the people in this country. So, of our 3 things we care about, number 1 is creating financial security and economic freedom for families on Main Street, USA, so that people that, and everybody tries to solve a different problem with the business. I don't want to be downsized the 3rd time, or I've always wanted to scratch this itch, or I haven't got enough saved for retirement. So there's all these different solutions that people can solve with a successful business. And those are the opportunities that we give to people. And businesses are a high class asset. That's why so many of these family offices or experienced entrepreneurs are adding franchise businesses, because you take advantage of the tax code. Businesses generally, like real estate, are going to move with inflation. So they're never going to really fall behind the general economy as long as you're running a good business.
Yeah, a couple of things I wrote down, and the underlying theme of the show is experience, not opinion. And I think as athletes, we get that.
Yeah.
Again, the show's not about promoting franchise, but at the same time, I think for any of us as athletes, where you'd say you come from this environment where someone's telling you literally what to eat, what to do, how to train, here's your schedule, here's game day, here's recovery day. You are in a system. And I think most of the athletes I talk to that come out of that system and are ready to go into entrepreneurship suddenly realize, oh shit, like I'm the guy making all those calls. I was kind of great just being the player on the team and crushing it. And I think that's exactly what you've outlined is your experience having been in that environment, and what you're creating is essentially like joining a high performing sports team, that you're surrounded with an LMS, people that know the accounting, been there, done that. You don't even look at franchises less than 5 years. So, I think as people are thinking about what is my next, I own 3 different franchise businesses for that exact reason. There's just some places I want some been there, done that mentality. And under Homefront, it's like that. Obviously, you guys aren't the only, but when you talk about the top 1% of ones that are, I'd say I kick the tires quite a bit. You are. And in that experience, not opinion, is, you mentioned this earlier, a checklist. I mean, I talked to you about how did you whittle it down? And again, that nugget for me is, folks, don't forget whatever your versions of checklists were, tape your wrists, get this on, you listen to this playlist, you do this exactly, what you eat before a game. Take that with you. Jeff's looking at multi-million-dollar, possible billion-dollar opportunities. He's got a checklist. There's a reason that works, so that you can whittle it down very quickly. They self-select. So these are great little, I think, value bombs that when you really macro and zoom out, you go, wow, it's not that much different. And that's the whole spirit of the show. You can be the same competitive, fierce, get after it, but don't wing it. Right. And I think that's kind of the spirit here. Stay within those guidelines, right? Have clean eyes, not dirty eyes. I want to go be a middle linebacker after hearing that. I'm like, let's go. So man, I could go in so many different directions. One fun one I think I do want to go to is you decided to go on Undercover Boss. And if I'm not mistaken, it was one of the first episodes, if not the first. What in the world was going through your brain of like, I think this is going to be a good idea? Because my guess is if it doesn't go well, you don't get the option of saying, hey, please don't air that. Like, you're kind of stuck with whatever comes out. So when you got approached to do that, or when you're thinking about doing that, what was like, I'd be scared to death thinking about that. But yeah, walk us through that.
So it was actually, we got approached for the last episode in season 7. And it was through our PR company, and Undercover Boss likes to do franchise systems because in those, the CEO sometimes is not known to new employees, down the line employees at franchise locations. So if you're the CEO of Carnival Cruise Line, most of the employees have seen your face and things like that. So they're able to navigate inside of that. And it was interesting. We got the opportunity, and it's like typical. They're like, we've had somebody drop out, because a lot of people actually say no because they're fearful of it. And if you look at some of the bad episodes, you can see why.
Sure.
You have no edit approval. The first time I saw that episode was it actually held over to season 8, 7.1 million people. I had about 250 friends and family. I tell you, it was great. I had coached over 30 seasons of my kids' sports. That bar was filled with 12, 13, 14, 15-year-old kids from my from my coaching teams and their parents. Like, that was who filled it. It was my coaching community. It was my youth sports community. And it was great. We had 250 people there, and we watched the episode, and to hear their producer say, it's like, you guys had 5 episodes that were good. He goes, usually we get 2 or 3. And then, it's like, we need to fill with 5 minutes at the dog park with the family. He goes, you guys had to throw away an episode that most of the shows would kill to have. And it's 100% attributable to the great franchisees that we had. I knew that they would show up. I knew that they were bought into the values. I knew that, like, they would always be trying to do the best thing for the customer. And I just didn't see the risk. Now, I knew that now they try to wear you out, right? And it's okay, 7, they're getting you up. You're doing these OTFs on the flies, morning, noon, and night, and they're asking you lots of questions. They're getting you tired. They're seeing if they can make you cranky. All of those types of fun things. I think my non-disclosure's up, but there was a stack of paperwork. But what I did was, look, at that point, we have a big 5-acre facility here, and I would coach. I mean, in the winters, my son's baseball team would pitch and catch, and we had a batting cage in the warehouse. Or my daughter's basketball team would be in there in the winter because gym space was tight. And I would line the side yard as a football field. And that's where I coached all my little football teams. So, we use the facility that's a business owner's purview to be able to use the assets like that. And we use the facility for all of that. But most of those people, I don't even know that they knew that I owned the business. Like, we were a very private family. And yes, we were growing the franchise and all of that. So I sat my kids down on the couch in a bonus room, and above it was a quote from my college football coach, Jerry Moore, from Appalachian State University, and it said, "Always do more than is expected." And then there was a big plaque that had our family values on it, which live fun, be humble, respect others, be a servant leader, trust yourself, fail fast and move forward, trust yourself to take chances, and always do more than is expected. So those were our family values. So sitting underneath there, I said, guys, if we get on the show, it's going to change for you. People are going to hate you because they're going to think you're rich, and they won't be wrong, but the difference is they're going to know you're rich. Right. And they're going to know, and there's just things could change for you. Because envy is the enemy of enlightenment, but we all have it. And so I said, you guys have to be okay with us doing this. And, but like, you can't sit under that quote and say no, right? Trust yourself to take chances, fail fast and move forward. Always, you can't say no, right? So if we approached it in that way, and then my approach to it was, they can't play something that I don't say. So don't get funny, don't get loose, because they will cut things together in a way. I mean, they cut things together that were not said together to create, intrigue and drama. But I will tell you that even though it was a positive episode and it was without much of the drama that you have, that it plays all the time. And I mean, it plays all over the world. I will get just a rash of, things from England or, New Zealand or Australia. It's middle-aged women sometimes.
Well, our friends in England love to give everybody a rash of shit for whatever.
But it's it plays like we were at a soccer tournament, and all of the kids are in the lobby of the hotel waiting to go to their game, and they're just watching it. And my daughter went to Clemson, and she didn't tell anybody. And the next thing you know, she walks into a room, and they're like, "Is that your dad on TV?"
Yeah, can we show? I know I'm breaking sort of edit protocol here, but can we bring up? There it is.
Oh, there you go.
I mean,
so it was a positive show. The franchise owners all showed up big, and we learned a lot. And it was, it's kind of the gift that keeps on giving. But look, why would somebody not take the opportunity to challenge themselves to an opportunity like that? I don't know, because there is risk and you have no edit approval and you don't know what they're going to say. But at the end of the day, that's been one of the gifts that keeps on giving for us. And even in building this brand and getting access to the types of people that can really help Homefront Brands and our franchisees get where we want to get to. So it's just an asset. It's a marketing asset. But it was a great experience.
I'm going to challenge you in that. I think it's more than that. And hearing you talk about it, one of the things I wrote down was if I'm building a business, I think the reason why you say, why not? Why wouldn't we do that? I mean, sure, there's the things you talk to your family about, which reaches beyond that. But you had no doubt that you were doing the right thing. You were living the values that you had said. It wasn't just a bunch of words over a wall as you walk into an office. Like, these were real ethos things that were happening. And of course, in a company of that size, there's going to be fracture points. That's the idea. Mm-hmm. But you weren't afraid of that. And so I wrote down, I think for our audience is, if you're on the journey of entrepreneurship, regardless of where you're at the beginning, or maybe even where you think you're getting ready to sell, do some inventory. And if Undercover Boss came to you and said, gun to your head, are you on or off? I would hope you'd say, I'm on, without any thought, because you've laid the groundwork, like Jeff talked about here. You've laid the groundwork that where you find the broken points, it isn't because you violated the values. It's because it may have grown too fast. You talked about that, or it may have been other things out of your control. But I appreciate that. I think that is a why not. And I would say that might be a pretty good test of, am I doing the right thing? Am I building the right thing? Like, that's a pretty damn good question. I appreciate that. As we kind of come to the end here, one of the other things that I find unique in your group, and I'd like to spend a few minutes, because it's one of those old sayings, don't ever hire family or friends when you go into business. And yet one of the things that I was really attracted to when I got to come to Homefront main office was you've got some family and friends there that are working with you in really high places, making some serious decisions. I know you've got the ethos and statement of rush to conflict, and I've seen some of that, which is, again, I love that as an athlete. Like, just pass me the freaking ball. I'm in front of the goal. I can score. I'm not going to say, if you don't mind picking your head up, if you get open, it's like, no, let's get there quick. And you've got some family that are in the business. Talk about the benefits and how you navigate that, if navigate's the right term, but I think there's a good reason for it. But in the spirit of never hire friends or family, what's your answer to that, given that you've gone the other direction?
So I have, over the 25 years of building Advanaclean, I had a lot of family that, for whatever reason, needed a job, came available, and we hired them, and largely did not work, and had to let these people go. My wife included. She was coming in late and setting up, she was an advertising executive, like a salesperson, like she was one of the best radio sales people in Charlotte. Just super highly talented, but those salespeople, right? And if you're the spouse of the owner, there's a higher standard to toe the line, right? And so she did some things for us, and she did some great work. Actually, the Advanaclean trucks, if you see them, she designed those with a design, so she contributed greatly. But at the end of the day, it was, the friction was more than it was worth. And I had other cousins of hers and things like that. Now, so here's my advice. You only hire family if they are absolutely proven and qualified for the role that you are hiring them for, because you can get, so loyalty is not loyalty until it's tested. And you should get loyalty from family members in watching your back, watching your money at the high, but only if they're qualified and capable and willing to perform in the role as good or better than anybody else. Because the other teammates are going to be like, they have to respect these people. If anybody's in a position that's not doing the job and they're not respected, that's a problem. If they're a family member, that's even a bigger problem. So only put people in, my brother Mike, he's our CFO. He was the CFO of the Carolina Panthers NFL team. My son Zach, econ and finance major. He's been building businesses with me from the time he was in college. He worked in Advanaclean before, and you worked with him. He has the final say. And by the way, he's the second largest shareholder in this platform, and it's based on his performance. So like that's it. I don't care how old you are. Are you a baller? Or are you not a baller? And do you get the job done? And Zach did all of our deals. He negotiated and closed from an M&A perspective all of our brands. Then he took over development, and we became it's one quarter the fastest growing franchise platform in North America. He pays attention. He doesn't let people in that he thinks have risk to themselves or to us. And he's a gatekeeper, and he does a great job, and he's very professional in it. So that's good. But you have to be real careful with that. And but the other side of it is we are a family business, so we can make long-term decisions. Like, for example, the investment we're making in learning management is because I'm going to set a goal. I'm going to show all, I'm setting a vision for all of the franchise owners of what they should think about in their business. A learning management, there is no real place where that can live inside of our P&L other than coming straight out of our P&L. Right. And it's not franchisee paid for, but the investment we're making, which is going to be probably $600,000 next year, is because that's going to add multiples of value to our franchise owners' business when they go to transact their businesses out. So it's the right thing to do. If we were private equity owned, they would never make that investment. They would never make it. And because they couldn't get that through committee. So
we can be crushing EBITDA, right? Like it would just suck.
Yeah. But I mean, we have a 2037 plan. So for us, it's about quality. And the only thing that really matters to us is what's happening in the four-wall economics of the franchise business locations. Because at the end of if you play this forward, the only thing that the entire value of everything we're building for all of the stakeholders and franchise partners and us is what are the unit economics inside of the franchise owner's location. If those work, then everything else works. There's nothing in this franchise business model that we made up and like where the revenues go, who pays for what. It's been established by thousands and thousands of franchise companies before us. So the game is just there. It's, you might have a new franchisee come in and said, well, you guys should pay for this. It's like, well, the thousands of franchise companies before would tell you no, and this is why. It has to be what's called the perfect balance for franchise owners to be successful and to make money inside of it. But then you also need to make sure that you're paying for the things that are going to bring long-term value and equity value to their businesses. And everybody has a different opinion about whether they should pay for this now or not pay for it now. Somebody might say, well, Jeff, take that $600,000 you're going to spend in learning management and put it into leads for us, and stuff like that. And I'm like, well, there's different buckets for that. So it's really, it's, being in a family business. I think your point may be that, or at least I've heard from other people, is they appreciate the fact that there's family in the business because we're a family business and that we're not a private equity owned business today. And I think that people appreciate the fact that having experience and by the way, some private equity is incredible. They do great. I mean, like there are great private equity firms out there that make investments in platforms and just grow them for the benefit of everybody and do a great job. But it's depending on what their goals are and what their funds. I mean, there's other things that have nothing to do with the business. Like where are they in their fund life? What are they, are they buying this accretive to skinny it down and to flip it into the next deal? So there's a lot of things that are outside of the business's control when you deal with private equity that you have to be pretty sophisticated to understand. And you have to be very thoughtful about who you partner with there because, yeah, I mean, right. We're family funded, 100%. I mean, we're family, we have family type values and we make decisions that, are in the best interest of the families of the franchise partners that have chosen to join us here.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because, also appreciate your transparency, right? It could have been an easy answer of, Mike's here, my son Zach's here. This is awesome, works great. I'm 2 for 2. The reality is it doesn't work that way. So I appreciate you sharing that.
I'm probably 4 for 20.
Yeah, well, you know what? In the 4 you've got, and I will say, great job, Dad, because coaching your kid is freaking hard. Did it, and your son Zach is a superstar. Apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He brings your energy. and a different style, which is really cool. So he's
Yeah.
not trying to be you. I get that. As of late, been talking a lot with him about some of our challenges in a different state, but always willing to say, let's go find a solution. And I think that is the difference between go pound sand and let's find a solution, right? And so I think that speaks to what you're talking about. Mike Brown, who's a pretty famous COO, had said, make sure that job description matches what you want, and then find somebody who overachieves. And you kind of said the same thing, proven and qualified, like whether they're family or not. And I do use the mantra that they know, I'm sure Mike knows, it's the same. Like when someone is inside the organization, the bar just got raised because all the questions are going to come up. Did you get the job because he's your brother, your dad, your whatever, your husband? And the reality is those questions they're there. So yeah, you got to overachieve. So I think having that written out is kind of the takeaway, that if you know what the job description is and your friend, your brother, your whatever overachieves on what that expectation is, you're at least on the right foot. But as Jeff would say, 4 for 20 or 25, the math may not be with you, but move in that direction. As we bring this to the wrap, a couple of things. First would be maybe something we haven't covered, but that's been on your mind. When you look out across the ocean of young entrepreneurs, and young could be somebody who's 60, looking at a different twist in life. Young could be 25, just retired from the NFL, and I don't want to go sit on a fishing boat. I want to do something in my community. I want to have impact. In business in general, maybe even if you went back and talked to your 25-year-old self, what would you say that you know now, and create a bit of a speed up here? Because I'm not a big fan of life hacks, if you will, but I think if we can speed up that curve, what would you say to that young entrepreneur to put between their ears to give them a leg up?
So the title of my book, Discernment, is The Business Athlete's Regimen for a Great Life Through Better Decisions. And that business athletes concept is very intentional. I coined that phrase. I've seen it when I did the search for the trademark of, and I'm just like, okay, I've already seen a couple references to it, but the parallel between athletes and their success in general life is clear if they choose to embrace it. So what do they need to embrace? Dr. Carson said something when he was speaking one time, and I know he said it many times, but the person who has the most to do with what happens to you is you. When we're athletes, we learn to sacrifice. We learn to, dive on the floor for a loose ball and skin up our knees just so that ball doesn't go out of bounds and we can flip it to a teammate and they can score. You learn that that extreme ownership over things and not blaming other people for things. I think what's, my advice to people is not get distracted with a lot of the rhetoric that's going on right now of people worrying about what everybody else is doing. Focus on you. I had Brad Lee on the podcast yesterday, man, and this is his point. Like, he's like, you focus on you. You focus on what you're doing. This is your $1 million morning, and these are the things that you do. Because if you don't do well, you can't help anybody else. So whether it's Jocko Willnick's extreme ownership or it's, whatever it is, like, don't get in the habit of making excuses of external factors that aren't your fault, because honestly, everything that happens is if you're paying attention and you're thinking well and you're thinking hard enough, then take responsibility. And then the other thing is don't be afraid to make mistakes. Look at what Elon Musk just did. I mean, my son's an engineering major. He loves aerospace. So every morning he would stay up all night. He would watch these rockets going up and exploding. And he'd come down and show it to me. He goes, look what happened last night. And my only question was there people on it? He'd be like, no. I said, okay. Well, what Elon understood was, like, you've got to break things to learn things. So how fast, how many rockets did just fizzled off to the side and exploded or crashed into the ocean or missed the path? Like, all of them. And then finally they started sticking the landing in the ocean. And now he puts it right back on the launching pad. So, if you want to have a great life, a life of your own control and of your own destiny, of your own design, then that's 100% within your control to do it. And you've got to you need to, like, most of what we try in business is not fatal. We're not soldiers. We're not cops. We're not firemen. Like, me getting up and going out and being asked to speak in San Diego at the Leap Academy on short notice, a couple of weeks ago, and going out there, like, what's the worst thing that could happen to me if I take a chance and I jump on a plane and I go out and do something? So, trust yourself to take chances, and just, be the athlete that you were trained to be. Don't mushy yourself up when you get into the business world, because people tell you that, well, you can't act like that here. You can't be that aggressive here. I'm telling you what, the people that hired you, if you're working for somebody, they recognize it. Oh, this person's no BS. They just get the job done. And they don't ask for a peppermint or a pat on the back because they stayed till 6 o'clock and finished the spreadsheet. They just get it done. And and if as you're standing on the sideline and you're hoping to be put in the game, like, when you get your opportunity, like, you have to ball out. It's the same thing in business. And I don't know where the disconnect is between the game field and the business battlefield, because you should take the same approach to it. And if you do that, and then you don't even have to have that clear of a picture where you're going to end up, because the process will bring you to where you need to be. And just, trust your training. Business athletes, we train, we try, we outwork people. We plan our work. All of the things that you learned, will serve you well in your life should you continue to do them. And I will tell you too, here's the other thing where it goes wrong in business is people get very selfish and get very greedy. And you will do better in the long term, not demonizing, cutting people down, or setting other people up for failure. As do like you learned on your fifth grade soccer team, play for the other players, make the team better. You don't have to score the goal if you made the pass, make sure that the team wins. And then inside of that, you will get what you deserve. Either way, whether you do or whether you don't, you're going to get what you deserve.
Well, I love it, right? And that's the whole idea of the show here, is that we're speaking truth into people to say, you don't have to mushy it up, to use your words. You don't have to pay attention to what's on TikTok, Instagram, or Facebook in terms of how soft you have to be and everybody wins. In fact, it's the opposite. Take those learnings, take those disciplines, lift your teammates up. There are countless examples from Michael Jordan and down of when it was all about one player, success was not there. And suddenly when there was a flip to it being about team, the winning just happened, right? And it's been documented. As we wrap here, there's a reason the show is What's Next with an exclamation point, not a question mark. So as we think about that, what's next in the exciting mode of what's going on for Jeff, Homefront Brands? What's to come that, our audience is going to stay tuned to you and where you're going with Homefront? What's next?
Wow. Well, great
you
question.
Can share.
Great question. I'm not, it's really more of the same. I think with Homefront Brands is elevating to a place, I think, of national awareness. We're doing that through our social media. We're doing that through my podcast. We're doing that through distribution and franchise owners going out in their local markets and winning business and doing accounts, and the temporary walls business in particular. So we're really, this was our first full year of trading. I mean, we had 70 new businesses owners launch in the fourth quarter of last year. Most people, the overwhelming majority, we considered 23 or 24 to be our real first year of trading, because most people joined or just a whole slew of people joined in the back half of 23 and really didn't hit the ground running until the fourth quarter or the first quarter of this year. So this was like our debut into the world as a group. And then next year we see, a 300% system-wide revenue growth. We see excellence in lead generation. We see agility within our technology stack. We see 2 new brands. So it's really just the refinement of what we set out to do and what we believe. And then our franchise owners, growing up that second year in business. The first year is always hard. But that's like that second year in business with the best tools, technology, with the right focus. So really it's all about Homefront Brands for me. And then, at the top of it in terms of reach and awareness, really leveraging this platform to make sure that we're introducing the values and the people and the mission of Homefront Brands to the world. So So I've gotten hyper focused. I mean, I got a little bit overly broad in 2019, 20, and 21. Just about by the end of this year, I'll be out of anything that would be considered a distraction in terms of those businesses and stuff. So we've been able to, and like anything else, in 4 or 5 years, you get to exit these businesses. So got a couple of things happening here near the end of the year, and really for me, it's just going to be how to finish impeccably for the rest of my career with Homefront Brands, and that's what I'm excited about.
Well, in the spirit of John Maxwell, and many of others have said this too, but I love the way that John said it. You surround yourself. You can take inventory of yourself by the 3 or 4 people you surround yourself with, and as a self committed guide to where Homefront Brands is going. For the audience, if you're just curious about that and what that might look like as a business, if you hadn't even thought about franchise before, regardless of what you're thinking about, check out Homefront Brands, see what they're doing, and maybe just put that up on the board, whatever you're trying to decide about doing, and use that as your marking post to say, does it have what they've got? And I can say that because I'm on the inside with these guys. I love what's going on there. And is it perfect? No, and it never will be. But it is a huge step in the right direction. The links to Jeff, his social, his podcast, all that will be in the show notes. As an athlete, the link to this book is going to be in there. It's not a 15,000 page document. It's succinct, to the point. Think about it as a pregame, halftime, and postgame talk. You're going to get it there. You've heard little snippets of it through here. That'll be in the notes as well. But Jeff, thank you for joining us on the show. I mean, what a treat. And folks, if you've enjoyed what you heard today, drop us some comments. Certainly like and subscribe. We love when you do that. That's how we grow the show. And more importantly, keep your eyes focused on what's next.